All right, what's up, my friends? Welcome to the Lord of the Rings complete set review.
That still only counts as one.
That's right, we're going over every single card of the brand new Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth set, which is going to be legal in Modern and further back, legal in Commander, legal in Historic on MTGArena, and then also going to be a full-featured draft format on Arena, in paper, and at the Pro Tour, which I'll be playing at, which is super, super exciting. Very exciting release, very important release, the first big Universes Beyond release. It's freaking Lord of the Rings, folks! I love Lord of the Rings, you love Lord of the Rings, tons of flavor in this set, very, very excited. We're doing our usual 4 awards of Best in Show, Sleeper card, Trap card, Bombin Common for our top limited card. We're doing a flavor award this time as well. Also, it's really, really fun. I did a short video on the Ring Tempts You, the very, very important mechanic in the set, as kind of like a preamble to this set review. If you missed it, go watch it on YouTube. Definitely check that out, of course. And make sure you, of course, you like the video, folks. The YouTube is doing very, very well lately, and it's very, very important for me and other content creators. Whenever you engage with them, please take half a second and like the video. Train yourself to like the video. Hit play, hit like. Helps out a ton. Just like every video also. It doesn't have to like be picky about it ever. It helps us out for no cost to you, and check that out. So, before we get into that review, also, I want to remind y'all, I'll be at Command Fest Orlando. That's going to be freaking this week. I'm pumped. I'm excited for it. The whole family's going. It's the pre-release for Lord of the Rings. And been playing Commander, doing meet and greets, playing pre-releases. It's going to be a ton of fun. I hope to see you there. Me, other content creators, Tulane Community College is going to be there. Nerd Girl, Voxy, Talia Bass. It's going to be a great time. So make sure you're there for Command Fest Orlando. Lord of the Rings pre-release. It's going to be great. It's going to be really, really awesome. So, let's get right to the cards. The Lord of the Rings.
Certainty of death.
No death here, Gimli. We're good to go. With our first card, Banished from Edoras. 5 mana for a sorcery. This is exile target creature, and it costs 2 less to cast if it targets a tapped creature. This is kind of like your bread and butter mediocre removal spell in limited. This is an instant. Obviously, it looks a lot better. As a sorcery, this is a very, very clunky limited card. It will kill things, but very, very clunkily. Even at the cost reduction, 3 mana for a sorcery that exiles tap creature is not great either. This is kind of like a limited filler. It's, if you really need a kill spell, sure. I wouldn't just play this card. I would not take this card high either. And of course, the flavor here. Wormtongue bared his teeth, and then with a hissing breath, he spat before the king's feet. Flavor's going to be off the goddamn charts in the set. And it's a set where, like, it's funny. I just listened to the receivables on my trip home from my vacation about The Dark. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. They were discussing how The Dark is a set that's very, very simple, but full of flavor and evocative art, and how like, that's its own way of complicating things, making it really, really cool. So, yeah, but Battle of Bywater. White, 1 for a sorcery rare. Destroy all creatures power 3 or greater. Then make a food for each creature you control. So kind of a weird one here. We see these wraths, fairly common in white, where they kill all the big things. They're pretty hard to make work, realistically. In a constructed format, again, the power level of this format, of these constructed cards need to be into Commander, into Modern, and into Historic, which are all very powerful formats. Probably biggest chance for Commander here, honestly, in like a food-themed deck. But in Modern and Historic, pretty tough. There are kind of better versions of his effect. Dusk Dawn comes to mind. So for constructed, probably not really. For limited, kind of a weird one also. Definitely about being an insane sideboard card limited, but if you're playing like a very low to the ground deck, you could maybe start this card. But kind of just one of those fringe cards, a little Lord of the Rings favor. Kills most of the non-hobbits, which is kind of cool. But moving on to Bill the Pony. Aww. Oh, Bill. We had to leave him at the gate. We had to leave him there. He'll be all right, though. Don't worry about it. 4 mana for a 1/4 legendary horse. Not pony, horse. When Bill the Pony ETBs, make 2 food tokens. Then you can sacrifice a food, and until end of turn, target creature you control deals combat damage for its toughness rather than its power, which is kind of weird because that's a very tree folk mechanic, and there are obviously tree folk in the set that kind of use that mechanic. So kind of like a weird tree folk adjacent pony, which is a little odd. But realistically, for constructed, probably not. 4 mana for a 1/4 makes 2 foods is okay. But in limited, this is basically just a 4/4 for 4. Where you're sacrificing a food, It comes with 2 foods already. And there's also a pretty heavy food theme in green, white, I think black, white, and limited. So picking foods is a big deal. And both making the foods and then using the food. So this is a very solid draft card, honestly. It's also a legend for something that matters for that too. So it's pretty cool. You can make Bill the Pony your ring bearer. Bill the Pony says, I will take it. I will take the ring to Mordor. Boromir, Warden of the Towers. This is our first award. It is our first award. Best in show for white. Boromir, Warden of the Tower. 3 for a 3/3 legendary human soldier. So legendary matters, human matters, soldier matters. It's a 3/3 with Vigilance. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. This is a very, very, very important type line in the current modern format. We're talking about Cascade. We're talking about Pitch Cast Fury, Pitch Cast Solitude. We're talking about, Mox Amber. We're talking about Mishra's Bauble. This thing counters all of those cards, which is very, very important. There are obviously things I'm not thinking of as well, but that's a really important effect to have for a card you can play on turn 2. It also has 3 toughness, so you can't stomp this, you can't fire this out of the Cascade decks, which is really, really cool. Cards, that's a very, very solid effect. And then it also has the ability to sacrifice this and give your entire team indestructible. And the ring also tempts you as well. And again, I went over the ring tempts you. I'll not be discussing it at length in the set reviews. I already made a video on it. If you missed it, go watch it on YouTube. The ring tempts you. So kind of an add-on for this card, obviously. And obviously a little flavor as well as the ring tempting Boromir. But very, very good card in Modern. Definitely a really, really good, if you're playing company deck, if you're playing a human deck, if you're playing a kind of a hate bears deck, you can vial it in, which is super cool. It doesn't affect that. And this is a big one. Honestly, this is definitely a very good modern card for sure. Not like a slam dunk, gonna make new archetypes, whatever card, but a card that will see play in multiple archetypes and is a very, very good card, specifically for modern in particular, but also legacy perhaps as well. And then I mentioned Commanders also, and a good draft card too. Honestly, it's a good draft card, just a solid 3/3 with good abilities as well. So maybe a main deck card, maybe a sideboard card, but definitely a card that we'll see play in modern, which is pretty exciting. And it's our best in show for white. Boromir, Warden of the Tower. Moving on to Dawn of the New Age. This is a weird one. This is a very, very interesting card. I'm calling it my sleeper card for white. It's a 2-mana mythic enchantment. When Dawn of the New Age ETBs it ETBs with a hope counter on it for each creature you control. Say I have 2 creatures in play this thing, 2 counters on it. Beginning of your end step, remove a hope counter from Dawn of a New Age. If you do, draw a card. Then Dawn of a New Age, it has no counters on it. It dies, and you gain 4 life. Basically, this is sort of like Wrath insurance, or kind of like grindy insurance for your creature deck, where for decks that put a bunch of creatures in play, you risk getting hit by Brotherhood's End or Supreme Verdict or whatever else. So on turn 4, when you have 4 creatures in play already, rather than play another threat, you can play this, bank up the cards, keep attacking and doing your thing, and you'll slowly draw 4 cards over 4 turns. Very weird card because typically you would lean on a card like a Planeswalker or some sort of non-creature threat to keep applying pressure. So this might be a little too small ball, honestly. I could be way off on this card, honestly. I think the range of this card could be literally unplayable to a super awesome card. I don't really know yet, honestly. But it's a way to kind of bank up and draw for the post-Wrath world, which is kind of cool. It also triggers on your end step, so you do immediately draw a card. So you get 2 mana, draw a card immediately, and then you keep going every turn, drawing more cards, which is kind of cool as well. So this card's pretty cool. In modern, in historic, I'm not sure if it's good enough, but it does seem kind of cool. In Commander, you can do cool proliferate stuff with it or whatever. And then in Limited, this card seems phenomenal because you just play this on turn 4 with 4 creatures in play and just draw 4 cards, which is also... And then the life gain matters too. If you're racing or whatever, it's kind of cool as well. So just kind of a weird, kind of cool new card. It's really awesome to see after 30 years. We can still see Magic cards and make us go, wow, that's kind of new. I never thought of that. So pretty cool card, great draft card, and I'm hoping it has a chance to get constructed. It's my sleeper pick for white. The Dunedain Blade, 2 mana for a equipment. Creature gets +2/+1. Equip a human for 1 or equip for 3. This card's not quite there in Limited. Equipment is good in Limited, but they've been super, super conservative in the last decade or so with common equipment. Back in the day, in Mirrodin when it first came out, we had Bone Splitter, Volshock, Morningstar, which are both really, really good and efficient. And we've never come close to those levels of efficiency since then. But this one's pretty good. If all your creatures are humans, I wouldn't mind having one of these in my deck. You have my sword. But I wouldn't want to play that many of these. I would not take this card high and limited at all. It's obviously only a draft card here. But I think this is, +2/+1 is a solid boost, obviously. So if you're playing mostly humans, this is probably a fine card for your aggressive draft deck. But I want to be playing almost all humans to even consider it. I don't want that many either way. The Eagles are coming. The Eagles are coming. There's a new cycle of land cyclers in the set. There are one common for each color. Of course, the land cyclers are creatures that have cycling, usually 2, to go get a certain land type that are also expensive commons, so kind of like good early, good late. These have land cycling 1, which may not seem like a big deal, but it's a big deal. Land cycling 1 is obviously twice as good as land cycling 2, sort of, and very, very powerful on turn 1. You can cycle this, so you don't really lose much tempo-wise for these, and the having it on both sides is phenomenal. So all of these are very, very good limited. It's also, the card itself is a 5-mana 3/3 flyer, which is not great. But on ETBs, all your creatures get +1/+0 and gain first strike until end of turn.
Wow.
So like a mini overrun, making it really hard for yourself to block, and the body is okay by itself too. So I think these land cyclers are phenomenal. The land cyclers in the last set weren't that great because 2 mana just is a lot to land cycle, but 1 is phenomenal. So I think these are all pretty great. You can play a lot of them because they're so cheap, and yeah, pretty solid land cycler. And we're gonna see some of these in constructed in modern as we get to the next colors. Not this one, but I'll explain why. The East Farthing Farmer. It's so great. Time out. It's so great in this set that I can pronounce literally everything because of Lord of the Rings.
You're saying it wrong.
None of that Leviosa stuff here. I can say all the stuff, which is great. So 2/3 for 3. ETBs make a food token. When this triggers, you also give a creature +1 until end of turn for each food you control. Kind of a cool payoff, honestly, for food. Food, Hobbits, definitely a deck and limited. And this card's certainly reasonable for that. Obviously, making it food, makes it material, decent sized body. Just a bread and butter common, I think, for your draft deck and limited. The Eastmark Cavalier, 2 mana for a 2/2 Vigilance Human Knight. Whenever it deals damage to whenever it deals damage to a goblin or an orc, destroy that creature. It's a fine 2-drop. It's a human, some value there. Vigilance has Death Touch basically for armies, which is kind of cool. We'll get to that in a little bit. But just your kind of bread and butter 2-drop limited card. Eowyn, Lady of Rohan, 2 mana for a 2/4. And it's important to note that there are multiple versions of legends in this set across the rarities. Lesser characters might have 1 or 2 cards. The major characters have 3 cards, uncommon, rare, and mythic, which is kind of cool. There's multiple Eowyn's. This is the uncommon version. The uncommons are usually, statted more for limited, whereas the rares and mythics are more for constructed. So Eowyn here is a 3 mana for a 2/4, so well-sized body. Beginning of combat on your turn, a creature you control gains first strike or vigilance until end of turn. If it's equipped, it gets both. And then equip abilities you activate cost 1 less to activate. These equip cards never work out too well in limited, but honestly, the body here is quite good. 2/4 for 3 is certainly reasonable. And then giving a creature first strike or vigilance every turn is actually just excellent. So very, very solid draft card. If you do have your Dunedain Blade equipping for free off this is pretty cool as well. And cards are good. I am no man.
Get off my
I gotta get my loading soundboard set up. I'm gonna go nuts. So great draft card. Obviously not a card for constructed, but pretty cool. Errand Rider of Gondor. Folks, we got our Bombin Common here. 2 mana for a 3/2 human soldier. Whenever Errant Rider of Gondor ETBs, draw a card. Then, if you don't control a legend, put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. So there are a lot of legends in the set. However, that's not why Errand Rider of Gondor is the Bombin Common. The important part is when the ring tempts you, the first chapter of the ring is make your ring bearer legendary. So there are going to be a lot of legends floating around. The ring tempts you is on a bunch of different cards. So there's going to be legends everywhere, all over the place. And if this thing's a 3/2 that ETBs and draws a card, that is out of this world phenomenal for a draft common. So this is the Bombin Common, probably the best white common, I would think. And I think it's just a slam dunk. You know, if you're going to first pick common, this is the one you want in limited. Very, very exciting card. And the fail state of like put a land on the bottom and draw cards, also fine too. So pretty awesome card. Like it a lot. Errant Rider of Gondor. Escape from Orthanc. Why couldn't the Eagles just fly the hobbits to Mordor? You know, why not? 1 mana for how to start a Lord of the Rings, nerd battle 101 is that question right there. 1 mana for an instant. Target creature gains +1/+3 and flying to end of turn. Untap it. How far could you bear me? Asked Gandalf. Many leagues, says... Actually, I can't pronounce that name. Sorry. But not to the end of the earth. I was sent to bear tidings, not burdens. Flavor text is awesome. Love it. Here for the flavor text. If you know me, for limited, I really love 1 mana tricks. 1 mana tricks are very, very hard to play around. They're not inherently obvious. They're great tempo. And this is a trick that means your creature will probably live, can save it from removal possibly, get to untap it, get to make it flying to block flyers, can go into the air to like just kill unblockable or whatever. So this is a solid trick. This is not a card taking very highly, but not a card I'm unhappy to have in my draft deck at all. Just a very, very solid card. They keep making these 1 mana tricks better and better and better and better, like the finicky, reach +1/+1 or whatever. So this is a good trick. I like this card a lot. Wouldn't play 5 of these in my draft deck, but definitely a good solid draft card. Esquire of the King, 1 mana for a 1/1. Human Soldier. 5 mana and tap, unfortunately. Creatures you control get +1/+1 on a turn. Cost 2 less to control activate if you control a legendary creature. Again, controlling a legend will be trivial in this set. So basically just 3 mana tap, pump your team. If you're going super wide, there are some token makers. This card does seem pretty reasonable. Being capped by a tap and not being able to attack also does hurt the value of this card, but this is a decent card for your go wide deck and limited, not a high pick at all. One of the archetype cards you get much later on and you might or might not want. Faramir, a chance to show his crew quality. Field Commander, 4 mana for a 3/3, so a hill giant. Beginning of your end step, if a creature died under your control of his turn, draw a card. That's a phenomenal ability for limited. Again, not a constructed card, but a phenomenal ability for limited. I attack on my 2/2, you block with your 2/2, I play Faramir, I draw a card end step. That's awesome. And if the system playing keeps drawing cards, this is a phenomenal draft card for just that. But there's more. Whatever the ring tempts you, if you choose a creature other than Faramir, Field Commander, as your ring bearer, create a 1/1 white human soldier token. Of course, for those who don't know, in the Lord of the Rings movies, some liberties were taken with Faramir's character where he seems to be kind of tempted by the ring a little bit. It takes Frodo part of the way back to Gondor, is kind of wants the ring for Gondor, and then decides ultimately to let him go. In the books, that wasn't really a thing. In the books, he was stalwart. Almost at no point was he tempted. He was just showing his true quality. Let's hear it for Faramir. Right? Faramir, Captain of Gondor. But yeah, great draft card. Not a constructed card, but definitely a great draft card, which is super cool. Flowering of the White Tree. It's here for you. Here for Gondor, for Gondor and for Faramir. Flowering of the White Tree. This is gonna be our.
It's a trap.
It's gonna be our trap card. Don't hate me here, but white legendary enchantment. The card reads pretty good. All right. Legendary creatures you control have +2/+1 and ward 1. So a very powerful anthem. And your non-legendary creatures get +1/+1. So we have an anthem here. Much better than anthems that have come before it. Right? So, Glorious Anthem, even Crusade. These are cards that have been power crept out of Magic. Like whoa. Used to be playable back in the day. But creatures now are so individually good that these anthem effects just don't do very well. And this is an anthem effect with a lot of caveats. So it costs white, which is tough. It's legendary, so you can't stack them. You can't have more than one. And then it buffs. The big buff here is the +2/+1 in ward. Just +1/+1 is not good enough. It's just not even close to good enough. Honor the Pure, yada, yada, yada. +2/+1 in ward 1 is a very powerful effect. The issue is, can you put enough legends into your deck to make that good? And if you have all these legends in your deck already, do you really need an anthem effect? Typically these cards and kind of cards are good when you're making tokens, right? You're playing cards like Raise the Alarm or Spectral Procession or whatever it might be. So you make a bunch of tokens that are all 1/1s, make them into 2/2s, and go nuts, right? There aren't many legendary tokens. You know, usually legendary cards are just going to be, you know, this Ragavan or Isamaru or whatever it is. So I think this card has some win more problems. You know, it is definitely a card where it just feels like if you're gonna play this card to augment your Ragavan, just play another Ragavan or play another good card in that matter too. So I think this card's gonna mostly flop in Historic and in Modern and Constructed. It's definitely a great card in Limited. Don't get me wrong. Definitely a cool card in Commander as well, I think. We have a little more leeway and so on and so forth. But as far as Modern or Historic goes, I don't think this card's going to do much. I think this card's going to underperform and disappoint some folks. But it is pretty cool. Yeah. Again, if this was the Golden Pioneer, maybe a chance. In Standard, definitely a chance. But Modern Historic, not quite strong enough, I don't think. But again, obviously a insanely good Limited card. So, what we got? To Fog on the Barrow Downs. What happened to freaking Pacifism, right? So, of course, Pacifism is 2-mana enchantment, aura, creature can't attack or block. That's like the baseline for your go to jail enchantments. And
for your arrest. You're going to
in the last, 5 years, we've seen strictly better Pacifism over and over and over and over again. You know, every set it gets better. You know, now the creature can't use its abilities. Now the creature can't do this and that. Now the creature can't crew, whatever it is, you know. And now we're going backwards. 3 mana for a Pacifism. It makes it a spirit, which is, flavorful but irrelevant, basically. And it doesn't do anything else. So this is the reverse power creep. We're going backwards right now. So, this is a card that, it's, Pacifism and Limited tend to be good, but not always great if there's, like, sack effects and stuff, too. But it, excuse me, but it doesn't, really stop abilities. It's very inefficient. This is a pretty iffy removal spell. It is okay. This is not a first pick. It's just okay. It's, fine. It can do the job. It doesn't remove abilities. If your creature's a legend, or if the creature's a legend or whatever, it's still a legendary permanent in play that counts for stuff as well. So, pretty power retreat. I like that. Pretty rough take on Pacifism here for Limited. Playable, but pretty unexciting. Forge anew. No awards.
We have technology.
3 mana for Enchantment. Whenever it ETBs, return an equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As long as it's your turn, you may activate equip costs at instant speed, and you may pay 0 for your first equip rather than the equip ability. So, obviously, Hammer Time is the big card for the big thing for this. So Hammer Time, obviously a big deck in Modern, deck in Historic now as well, and this does the Sigarda's Blessing thing for a little more expensive. It can return the destroyed hammer also, which I think is honestly not that amazing. This feels like a one-up in Hammer Time, kind of like just a card that can later in the game can return equipment, maybe can be a Sigarda's Blessing if you need that effect also. But I don't think this is a card you're playing a ton of. This feels mostly like a redundancy element for Hammer Time, and that's really it. But at that effect is still reasonable for sure. Definitely a card that might see a little bit of play. But yeah, it is kind of cool. You can move around on their turn also. So your equips are 0, and you can do the first equip for an instant speed. So like on their turn, you can move the hammer or something else. But whatever. Huge diminishing returns here. Probably one of a Hammer Time. That's really it. And Limited, just not really a thing. So Frodo Baggins, Sauron's Bane. 1 mana for a 1/2 Hobbit halfling citizen. White or black hybrid. Kind of like a Figure of Destiny here. Pay 2 mana, make it a 2/3 lifelink, which is, okay. Then you can pay black, and if Frodo's a scout, it becomes a halfling rogue with other creature deals combat damage to a player. That player loses the game if the ring has tempted you 4 more times. Otherwise, the ring tempts you. This is a really, really cool card. This card is pretty much unplayable in all circumstances I constructed. Just not even. I know. I'm sorry. I know. But the stats here just don't work at all. A 1/2 for 1's bad. A 2/3 lifelink for 3 mana effectively and constructed is just not good enough. And then this black ability, you got to get your creature in to hit them, which is also not very easy either. Yeah, it's just not very powerful. I think that this is a good example of what they're doing in this set, where the power level is not even close to a set like Modern Horizons, which I like a lot, honestly. I feel like if this is Modern Horizons, this would easily be a a 3/3 lifelink rather than a 2/3 lifelink, you know? So, the ring does make it, does the ring make it unblockable? The ring does make it partially unblockable too, sure. But I just don't think that matters, you know? We're talking about modern, and we're talking about historic, where, you know, you need to put up 6 mana into a creature and then hit them with it somehow also, like in the format of Solitude, Prismatic Ending, etc., etc. That's just not going to happen. So I think this card would be pretty good in Standard if it was legal in Standard, but it's not, of course. I guess it's a great limited card, like phenomenal limited card, which is excellent. You know, historic, I mean, probably not, but more of a fun card than a good card. But I like that, honestly, for this set. I like that this is not Ragavan 2.0, and we can just kind of like enjoy the cards, enjoy the flavor, and kind of go from there. I'm very happy this set is not Modern Horizons 3. But good draft card. Gandalf the White. Gandalf, of course, one of the most important characters in Lord of the Rings. 5 for a 4/5 flash. Pretty good stats, honestly. You may cast legendary spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. If a legendary permanent or an artifact ETBing or leaving the battlefield causes an ability to trigger, you trigger it again. So kind of like a weird Panharmonicon for legends and for artifacts, and then also triggers the death triggers as well. Very Elish Norn-esque. Again, this is the kind of card that it's just not really costed for the modern format or historic. The effect is pretty powerful, but 5 mana for a 4/5, it needs more things to work. It's just not really like a tournament constructed level card. However, commander card, absolutely. Super awesome commander card. Doing Commander Harmonicon things commander is obviously great. In limited, phenomenal. 4/5 flash for 5 is just like good enough by itself in limited practically. And then, you know, they'll have plenty of effects. You know, if you get one effect off this also, that's good enough in limited, which is great. But yeah, again, another really, really cool card. A little more geared towards commander and casual play. And yeah, and it's also leaving the battlefield too, not dying. So if it's bounced or it's exiled or whatever, it works as well. So kind of cool. And yeah, that's pretty sweet. Gandalf the White. Hobbit Sting. Oh, here we go, folks.
The salted pork is particularly good.
We got our flavor win. We got our flavor award. We're doing one flavor award in addition to our 4 other awards. And our flavor award for White goes to Hobbit's Sting. Get it? Sting. That's the name of the movie. So for an instant common. Deals X damage to our creature, where X is the number of creatures you control plus the number of food you control. So even without the food caveat, this would be an okay card in limited. But the food caveat really helps here, of course, as we've seen. A lot of food making in green and white for hobbits, so on and so forth. And this is Sting. You've seen it before, haven't you? Yeah, so very, very solid limited removal spell. Obviously not meant for constructed, but it's meant for smiles and flavor and limited, which is great. One for the Shire, cried Aragorn. The Hobbit's bite is deep. You have a good blade, Frodo, son of Drogo. Good stuff. Landroville. Or Roville, probably saying that wrong. Horizon. I'm saying it's not wrong.
You're saying it wrong.
I didn't get it. I thought I was going to get it, but I didn't get it. This is going to be one of the Eagles. This is a 5 mana for a 3/4 flying bird noble. Whenever 2 more creatures you control attack a player, target attacking creature without flying gains flying. I'm sorry, this is such a freaking weird wording on this. I feel like this is a spot where they tried to word it in like a flavorful way, and it just sucks. This should just give a creature freaking flying whenever it attacks or whatever. Like, whenever 2 or more creatures you control attack a player, target attacking creature without flying gains flying. Also, like, if 2 creatures that aren't this attack, it still gives flying somehow, but like I'd imagine they need to be, I don't know, whatever. I have a real flavor fail in the rules text here. Don't like it in that regard, but 3/4 flyer for 5 gives flying to things. It's an okay draft card. It's really all it is. You know, if you need a way to push through, sure, but not a card I'm taking highly at all. Just you know, an okay draft card. Lost to Legend. Damn. This one almost got the flavor award. Lost to Legend, white instant. Put target non-land historic permanent, artifact, legend, or saga. From its owner's library, 4th from the top. And then some things which should not have been lost fell out of all knowledge. I screwed it up. I screwed the quote up. Whatever. So obviously a super, super cool card as far as flavor goes. In historic, in modern, not really good enough. 2 mana for, you know, it's It's sort of like a disenchant Hero's Demise, but like for white, we can just do better, obviously. It's just a little too hard to cast. And maybe if you're on mono white deck, this card might play. But more of a commander card, more of a limited card. And commander, obviously, this card's phenomenal. And then in limited, cards are very, very good. Gotta be a lot of legends, ring bearers, and so on and so forth. So great limited card, great commander card. Very, very slight chance in modern and historic as a sideboard card. But yeah. Nimble Hobbit. I feel like those two words don't go very well together, but sure. It's meant for a 1/3 halfling. Whenever a Nimble Hobbit attacks, you may sacrifice a food or pay 3. When you do, tap a creature an opponent controls. So kind of a payoff for being the food Hobbit deck in limited. This is the kind of card where the floor is kind of low, honestly. And I think that you need to have a lot of food makers to make this card reasonable and limited. I think paying 3 is not really worth it. Pretty easy to block and kill also. So I think it's like a filler card in limited, not very exciting. And obviously not playing instructed. Now for wrath, now for ruin, and the death of us all. Death!
Make a little noise.
Anyone? 4 for a sorcery. Put a counter on each creature you control. They gain vigilance on the turn, and the ring tempts you. I will say there are some cards in this set where the ring tempts you feels really tacked on. I don't know why the ring is tempting the Riders of Rohan. I guess like maybe this is like a book thing. So obviously in the movies, Theoden cries this as they charge Pelennor Fields and Gondor. But they're talking about the Black Gate here. So perhaps in the books, I don't remember exactly. Perhaps this quote was said in the books when they were charging the Black Gate, not Pelennor Fields. Nerd check. We got any book nerds out there? I've read the books, but I just don't recall off the top of my head. Whatever. So the ring tempting you maybe makes sense there, but whatever. We got to flavor judge some of this stuff, obviously, because it's a Lord of the Rings set. But as a draft card, as a sorcery, this card is like, a little bit of a weak overrun. If you're dying for a way to finish the game in your go wide deck, sure, but mostly kind of definitely not Storm of Seed Core. Not exciting card. But yeah, and again, the ring tempts you is kind of weird here. I don't know. I think they just wanted to add mechanic to more cards in the set, which kind of has a flavor fail, but whatever. It does add counters too, which is nice, so it does like size up a little bit, but I think it's kind of an okay filler card. Protector of Gondor. 4 mana for a 3/3. ET make a token. This is just your classic draft card. Just good draft 4-drop. Not always going to play it. Don't take it too high, but this is your bread and butter limited filler card. And again, good for the go wide deck, obviously, too. Reprieve. This is a crazy one here.
Good lord.
We've got a white remand. Right? Like a white remand. And it's even better than remand because it's not a counter spell. It just returns the spell. Therefore, with Cavern of Souls on prime time or whatever, you can still return it, which is pretty great as well. The question is, what do you do with this card? Remand's obviously a card that sees very fringe play in Modern at this point. Was once a staple in Modern and an absolutely busted card in Standard. Where's it go? That's the question. Hammer Time maybe, sideboard card in aggro human decks. It doesn't make sense to play in a control deck because obviously, like, you already have Remand, you're not playing it. But I think for decks that don't have access to blue, this is a cool way to stop combos. This is a good card against the Cascade cards. You just put that Living End back into their hand. Sorry. And that's pretty awesome. So this card's going to see some play for sure. Yeah, it stops Supreme Verdict, which is huge. This is just a good card, I don't know exactly where it goes, but this card will definitely see play in Modern. I think more importantly, this card's going to be really good in Historic. Really, really good where the power level is not nearly as high as Modern. But yeah, definitely a cool card for Historic, for Modern. Commander, I don't really know, honestly. Probably not. But and then Limited, this card's great too also. It's a very, very good card. Remand's phenomenal. And I kind of like this. It's a color pie break in the sense that, like, white hasn't done this before. But I like the idea of white having these sort of like really conditional tempo counters. I like that a lot, honestly. I think it fits kind of into, Mana Tithe and so on and so forth, the cards like that. Kind of fits the taxing theme, which is kind of cool. And I like it. So, card super cool. Reprieve. I'm very excited to play with this card. Up next is Rosie Cotton of South Lane. Old Rosie Cotton. They're meant for a 1/1. I like that, Rosie's not very large here. Rosie's just, a simple hobbit making their way in the world. When Rosie Cotton ETBs make a food, what if you make a token, put a counter on a creature that's not Rosie Cotton? Super cool draft card, obviously. There are a bunch of food makers. There's a good payoff for that. And I like that Rosie kind of serves the food to everyone else. Very on flavor. Like it a lot. Good draft card. Not amazing because the body's not great, but if you're doing a lot of food stuff, this card can definitely do that for you in draft, which is kind of cool. It's a fun legend. Fun little legend. Samwise the Stoutheart. Now, of course, if you saw my my TikTok and my YouTube short or whatever, when they were first spoiling the set, this is one of the very, very first cards they spoiled, and I freaking lost it that Sam was only an uncommon. Lost it. But again, there's a uncommon, a rare, and a mythic version of each of the main characters. This is the uncommon version of Samwise. And it's funny because the cheaper cards end up being a bit better than the more expensive cards anyway. So we have 2 mana for a 2/1 flash here, which is fine. When Samwise the Stoutheart ETBs, choose a permanent in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, return it to your hand, and the ring tempts you. So in Modern, right off the bat, fetch lands, right? You just crack a fetch land on turn 2, play this thing, return your fetch land. That's just, a 2/1 draw card for two flashes. Kind of cool, obviously. Kind of a weird card because these cards that are give you a benefit when one of your things dies they play much worse than they read because it's so hard to time them properly. How do you know a thing's gonna die and play it at the right time and so on and so forth? Kind of awkward. It just it's a little weird, but I think this card has a slight outside shot in Modern or Historic. Fun commander card. It is kind of cool with Solitude. That's a really cool one as well, obviously. So where you can Solitude pitch cast, get it back to your hands, kind of cool. Obviously, you still lose the card, but this card's kind of cool. I think this card has a chance. In limited, it's phenomenal. Just a straight 2 for 1. Commander pretty cool also, but I think it has a chance in Modern and Historic. We'll see. Old Samwise. Samwise is awesome. Second, we've had first breakfast, yes. Second breakfast, 2 mana for an instant. But 2 creatures you control get +2/+1 on a turn and make a food. This is a good freaking, a good common. This could potentially be a 2 for 1 with upside as well in limited. Making a food's obviously great. Pumping the squad is great. Again, +2/+1, you hope that wins the combat. But even if it's just say if this wins 1 combat, like my 2/2 on their 2/2, and then just trades up in a combat, my 2/2 versus their 4/4, that's still a good exchange also. So good draft card. Again, wouldn't want a ton of these, like most tricks. This is a good draft trick for your aggressive deck. Plays well in the food deck, obviously. Shire Sheriff. 2 mana for a 2/2 Vigilance. When Shire Sheriff ETBs, you may sacrifice a token. When you do, exile creature opponent controls. This goes away. So we have a Brutal Cathar here for 2 mana, which is awesome. But must sacrifice a token. But sacrificing a food or a clue or whatever, not too hard. Again, I think this is an outside shot constructed card. Probably not, honestly. Because these sort of Banisher Priest effects aren't very good and constructed. If it was a human or something like that, but in limited, this card's phenomenal. Obviously, you'll have food all over the place, and the floor is a 2/2 for 2, which is fine also. So good draft card, not much else. Slip on the Ring. I mean, I wish I had more flavor awards to give out. 2 mana for an instant. Flicker your creature, and then the ring tempts you. Just cool. Cool blink effect. Obviously, ring tempting you is pretty cool too. Just a cool little card for limited. Not much more than that. It's mostly a cool card rather than a good card, but I just like it. Soldier of the Grey Host. 4 mana for a 2/2 flying flash. Pretty bad stats. When it ETBs, creature you control gets +2/+0. I think this card's pretty bad. I think if it was a 2/3, we'd be talking. But as a 2/2, this is never going to win a combat. This can come and be a 4/2 and just block something and trade. That's terrible for 4 mana. You can maybe win a combat with this, but the winning a combat with +2/+0 is pretty hard. So overall, it's a pretty bad limited card. I think this card will not make your deck most of the time. Cool art, but kind of a dud. Stalwarts of Osgiliath. Wasn't Osgiliath taken? How stalwart are these guys? Right? They sure. 5 mana for a 4/3. When ETBs, the ring tempts you. Another ring tempt stretch. Why would the soldiers of Osgiliath be tempted by the ring? It isn't real. I guess I don't know. That doesn't really make much sense to me, but whatever. Very, very bad sizing here. And then when you draw your second card each turn, put a counter on this. Also very bad ability. This is the purest definition of limited filler. This card is just bad. Bad draft card. Bad flavor. Just a stinker all around. Just not really about it. Tale of Tinville. God, I'm just going to say stuff wrong. 5 mana for a Saga. It's an uncommon. Chapter 1, creature you control gets indestructible end of turn. I'm sorry, no, indestructible until this Saga goes away. Chapter 2 is a reanimate. Return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Chapter 3 is up to 2 creatures you control, each gain lifelink end of turn. I think this card is going to be good and limited, specifically because of the land cyclers. So the land cyclers in a set all cycle for 1. That's just very, very good. And this card just gets them back super easily. And then gives the big thing lifelink next turn to win the race too. So definitely the front load here is a little rough. But you can make like a really good blocker also. So pretty good value card in draft. Kind of cool. Not much more than that, but it's cool. Cool card. The Took Reaper. 2 mana for a 2/1 halfling. When this dies, the ring tempts you. As I was saying, this card makes no goddamn sense at all. The Hobbits are supposed to be somewhat resilient to the ring anyway. And why would this farmer Hobbit even know what the freaking ring was? I don't know. I don't get it. You know, mechanically, sure. This is a pretty good draft common, whatever. Just like does the thing. But there's a few cards in the set they just kind of put the ring tempts you on. Very, very obviously because they wanted more of just of the mechanic in the set for limited. But this one's like, I don't know. Some of them are a pretty big stretch. Some of them are phenomenal. But some of them are a pretty big stretch, and I'm not really happy about it. It's a fine draft card. Obviously totally reasonable, but I don't know. If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. War of the Last Alliance, 4 mana for a Saga. Chapter 1 and 2, search for a legend and put it in your hand. Chapter 3, creature you control gain double strike on turn, and again, the ring tempts you. I guess this one makes sense because it's War of the Last Alliance. This is Elrond and Isildur. This one makes sense. The ring tempting you at the end, of course. Search for one of each legend. I think a double strike, and then the ring tempts you. Cool. I'm cool with that one. But unfortunately for constructed, 4 mana for a tutor for a creature is not very good. So even in limited, like tapping 4 mana just like to do nothing is pretty tough. This is more of like a commander, like, you know, kind of do your weird commander stuff kind of card, and not much more, unfortunately. Westfold Rider, this card's really, really real. If there was a Bombin Common for constructed, this would be it. 2 mana for a 3/1. This is a human knight that can sack to disenchant. It's only as a sorcery. But this card, while it looks like a card that already exists, has never existed like this. This efficiency, killing an artifact or an enchantment for no mana investment, and it's also a human. This is going to be a huge card. Not a huge card, but a card that will see various play in various older formats, in Historic, in Modern, in Legacy. It's a human. You can vial it in. You can search for it with one of the thingies, the matron-y cards in Legacy. Much better than a card like a Thar Commando because there's no activation cost, which is great. That's just so important in older formats. Again, this is not a very, very powerful card, but this is like the tool in the toolbox that goes to the top of the tools. When you need a card that does this is now the best one. Have a few copies of your collection and go from there. In limited, filler, but constructed, absolutely. It's also a knight too, which is kind of cool. You shall not pass. So you might read this and go, but Jim, isn't the line, you shall not pass? Wrong. In the books, and also the first line that Ian McKellen says, it is, you cannot pass. Then Ian McKellen hammed it up for the movie and said, you shall not pass. But in the books, it's you cannot pass. And even in the movie, Gandalf first says, you cannot pass. Then he says, you shall not pass. So, flavor win. I like it. This is sort of like the real nerd cred card, like really stick it to the nerds, or the non-nerd, or whatever. I just love it. So, 1 mana for an instant. Destroy a creature that blocked or was blocked by a legendary creature of its turn. This is going to be a good draft card, honestly, because again, the ring tempts you, makes a creature legendary. And again, if you missed the stuff on the ring tempts you, I went over it at the start of this. It's not on YouTube yet, but obviously it will be if you're watching this on YouTube. So check that out. Go read up on it. It's cool. But yeah, a lot of legends here for sure. I think this is an okay limited card. You know, these sort of like kill a blocker or block thing cards they're not great. But there's a lot of legends going on. If you got to kill something, if you need a kill spell, this can do that for you. But yeah, for 1 mana, pretty solid, kind of a cool card. Not very constructed, obviously. You know, play freaking Prismatic Ending or whatever. But yeah, cool card for sure. You cannot pass. That's it for white. So to recap, we have our best in show, Boromir, Warden of the Tower. We have our sleeper card, Dawn of a New Age, Dawn of a New Age. We have our trap card in Flowering of the White Tree. We have our Bombin Common in Errand Rider of Gondor, and our Flavor Wind card in Hobbit's Sting. That is white. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube again. Please take a second, like the video. It helps me out so much. We got a bunch more colors to do on stream. They'll go nowhere, but the rest will be in another video. We'll have one video for white, blue, black, red, green, as well as multicolor, as well as colorless and lands. And then again, don't forget, the first thing I did was go over the Ring Tempts You mechanic and the emblem that it makes. That's required watching. Go watch that one first. All right, so blue's coming up. YouTube folks, love you. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you there.